scenarios. The first public relations officer, DCP Frank Umba, was here, and part of what indicated was from their scenario sketching, we were likely to have higher incidence of cybercrime. You were also likely to have higher incidence of sexual offenses. You were also likely to have higher incidence of domestic violence. And this is because people are in close proximity and they are locked down, and it's persisting for a while. Idleness sets in, and before you know it, you start having all of these kinds of offenses. So in terms of anticipating the nature of these offenses, I think that the law enforcement agents were well on course. But how the various communities and other related agencies have responded now that the numbers are coming out, it will be a different consideration altogether. The police ordinarily should have gender desks at various locations, but I don't think that they have it in all their commands, or for that matter, in all their divisional offices. So I think it's one of the things that they also have to take a look at, so that when these incidents occur, what are the reporting lines? I mean, it's a father violates the daughter. To whom should the daughter report? I mean, yes, I think those are the ways to.
Yes, the lockdown sort of brought to the fore something that has been happening for a while now. It must have been happening for a while before the lockdown sort of exposed it. And I think that there should be more stringent measures on these rape cases. And
talking about stringent measures, the chairman of the Governors Forum is on record to say that the Governors Forum will appeal to Mr. President that there should be a state of emergency declared as regards rape. And he has also indicated that, and will encourage his colleagues, nobody should avail prerogative of mercy for rape cases. And so at every level, I think it is being taken very, very seriously.
Okay, thank you so much.
That's we haven't taken the editorial.
Time.
Yes, we'll take the editorial.
Yes, let's just go very briefly to the editorial. National Assembly and NDDC face-off. It's all over the place.
Well, you see, when you are in hard times like we have a challenge, a health challenge foisted on us, and whatever measures they will take as experts, the legislators who represent the various constituencies will think that maybe it is not enough, and wherever they have reports from their constituency about shortfalls, there's need for feedback. So there's a need for coordination between those who are the health experts and also the legislators to make sure that Nigerians are better protected.
Okay, thank you so much, Bayo, for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. As usual, it's been a pleasure. We'll take a break right now. When we return, our conversation begins.
Coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person, who affects two persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the two persons have affected four, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
Welcome, dear. Have you washed your hands?
Inside my house again. This thing not the key black man.
I don't know if it's misinformation or poor hygiene that will kill you first. Coronavirus is real, and good hygiene practice will save your life. Anyway, no hand washing, no eating.
I will not take care of it. I was one of the parents. Coronavirus is real and it's on the rise. But you can help yourself and help others to be safe. Remember, we can stop the spread. It's in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
There is a lot of fake news and report circulating, especially on social media, on the coronavirus. Do not believe or partake in the spread of these fake reports. If it is not on the official website or news from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, disregard such report. Only together can we beat this virus. Only together can we overcome this pandemic. Follow the instructions and guidelines provided to combat this virus. Most importantly, stay at home. Self-isolate, regardless of your status. The virus doesn't move unless we move. Let us work together to better Nigeria. Together, we can do this.
This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Welcome back. The aviation sector, no doubt, is one of the critical segments of the transportation industry that contributes significantly to economic development. And so, the present government accords priority to the aviation industry to realize its full potential. Oyoyeme Ajayi in this background report chronicles some of the milestones realized in the last 5 years of the Buhari administration.
Since 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration has embarked on more than 157 aviation projects, with almost all of them being fulfilled, with those to be completed already above 50% completion. There was the inauguration of 8 NAMA projects, including the installed high-power Jetron VHF radios for Lagos East and West and Kano East and West. Also, the CA2 instrument landing system, renovated Centrex building, including the CCTV surveillance system. The Ibadan Airport Terminal building and Benin Airport were inaugurated to enable night flights and flights during poor visibility at the airports. The construction of the new international terminal building at the Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport, Abuja, which started in 2014, was completed by this administration. Also, Abuja International Airport became one of those to be linked by rail, as Port Harcourt International Airport new terminal building was also completed in 2018 to boost passengers' comfort and prepare for projected traffic expected to double in the near future. 10 megawatts independent power plant for the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport was executed to complement the power needs as well as other critical projects for the airport. The new General Aviation Terminal at the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport, the new regional offices of AIB and NIMET for the Northwest, as well as the instrument landing system and DVOR equipment executed by NAMA at the airport were inaugurated. Lagos and Abuja passed the ICAO safety audits and have since been certified. 45 billion naira gratuity was also paid to 5,000 retirees of the defunct Nigerian Airways. In 2020, the coronavirus pandemic in the country has seriously affected the aviation sector, with flights suspended in order to curb the spread of the virus in the country. With most of all these achievements, many have questioned when the national carrier operations will be a reality. As the local flights will soon resume, what more should be done to continue to make the air travel the choice of many, and how can the sector be improved to international best practices? Guests on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria will be answering these questions and more shortly.
Many thanks to you, Emi Ajayi, for that very elaborate background there. It almost gives the impression, Juma, that that's the end of discussion. So, all right. But happily, we have guests with us in the studios, as well as those joining us from remote locations to elaborate further on those issues and then provide responses to our questions. First, let's welcome Senator Hadi Sirika, Honorable Minister of Aviation. Distinguished Senator, Honorable Minister, pleasure to have you with us again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much indeed.
Okay. Also here with us in the studios is an aviation analyst, Godi Ike. Godi, delight to have you with us on the program.
Right, good morning, and well, thank you very much for having me.
Okay.
And we'll also have joining us via Skype from Lagos, Captain Roland Iyayi, former Managing Director, Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, NAMA. It's good to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigeria. Thank you very much.
And from our Kaduna studio, we have Captain Muhammad Joji, Managing Director, CEO, Sky Power Express Airways Nigeria Limited, former Managing Director and CEO, Nigerian Airways Limited, and former Chairman, Coordinating Committee, Abuja, Kaduna Airport Relocation. Captain Joji is joining us from our Kaduna Network Center. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, gentlemen, once again, our pleasure to have you with us on the program. The Honorable Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, I was just struggling a while ago to juggle my memory. I should have done the research before coming on air. But it appears to me that you are now probably Nigeria's longest-serving Minister of Aviation. First as Minister of State, of course, which is a full cabinet position, and as substantive minister. This has been so since 2015. I believe that is correct. But assuming it is not correct, it's still relevant to our conversation because you've been in charge since 2015. And therefore, the question to ask is, along with the celebration of President Muhammadu Buhari's 5th anniversary in office, what has changed in the aviation sector?
Well, thank you very much indeed for this opportunity to discuss what has changed in civil aviation in Nigeria under the Buhari government. True to the style of President Muhammadu Buhari, when we came in, I wrote him a letter in 2015 and discussed the roadmap as I see it, what will change in civil aviation in Nigeria at the time. And, gratefully, he did approve that roadmap. And that roadmap has components of it and some tangential issues regarding the roadmap. Part of it was to concession our airport, to put it into entrepreneurs that can improve it for quality service delivery. Then, of course, the national carrier question, at the time must be answered. We must begin to have an airline that is commensurate and equal to the task in Nigeria by our population, our geography, our need for transportation by air, and so on. And then, of course, the Aerospace University to go into research and development in civil aviation and aerospace. And we thought that that is amiss. The capacity of people needs to be improved to be able to have the sector that you do need or that you deserve. Then, of course, we thought of the aerotropolis, which are cities around the airport. This idea had been mooted before, but nothing was done about it. And we thought that our airports also, especially the major ones, would go to become free zones, where commercial activity would go. Because we thought that airports are not described as people lazily describe them to be, some say they're shopping malls, some say they're just point of landing and taking off. Airports now are cities all over the world, and they are centers for commerce and trade. They are centers for tourism. They are a gateway into your country. They are export points. They are manufacturing points. Airports have changed since, and then we tried to respond to that, part of the roadmap. Then we now say, okay, well, aviation business has been so difficult in Nigeria because of lack of access to equipment, lack of access to finance. And we thought that there should be some leasing arrangement, some leasing company that will come and offer people equipment, that they can get at a very cheap rate. And we thought that should be part of the roadmap. Also, the MRO, the Maintenance, Repair and Overhaul Center, which we didn't have in Nigeria. And Nigeria being 200 million people, contiguous with the rest of West Africa, if you like, and Central Africa, we are 600 million people. And that is twice the size of US in population. That is equal to continental Europe in population. So we thought that to have a very robust maintenance, repair, and overhaul with about 2,000 planes around this region, wouldn't be a bad idea, because you don't have to go to Europe to do a sea check, and then you take foreign exchange out. And then, of course, even ferrying the aircraft alone to go and come back, you spend $250,000, and that's a huge loss to our revenue. President Muhammadu Buhari approved that as part of the roadmap. I also remember that we intended to review the acts, Civil Aviation Act, that establishes this aviation agencies and the regulators and so on and so forth. Now, the Civil Aviation Act, since 1963, when Jaja Wachuku was minister, if I remember, up to 66 or thereabout, that was the first time that acts were established, and then they were never reviewed until when I got to House of Reps in 2003. And I picked up as then deputy chairman of the Committee on Aviation. I picked that up and championed it, and we got it reviewed. But because we delivered it in 2006, just very close to elections, we didn't do a very detailed job, I must admit. We just did what we could at the time and then delivered the act. So we thought we should review it. And now, happily, is in the second reading, past second reading. It's now for public hearing, and then before it comes a law. So this is part of the roadmap, and we thought that most of our infrastructure has decayed, dilapidated, and is not safe for operations, and that we should go gradually, even though we came at a very difficult time as a government, at a time when oil prices have fallen from $140 per barrel to less than 30, in their 20s, less than production cost. That was when we took over the government. We took over government going into recession. We took over government when there are no finance, no money. But fortunately for us, at the time, where Nigeria was owing $600 million to airlines that are doing business in Nigeria. And in all of these challenges, we said, okay, well, we will just go phase by phase to pick those critical infrastructure, to develop them, to build them. And we so did. So that's the starting point. And what has changed? What has changed today, example, is that we thought implementing that roadmap will see people, the propensity to fly will increase. People will love to fly. People will come and use aviation as alternative way of flying that is more efficient and safer and faster. And we grew that passenger number from 8 million to 18 million today in 5 years. That's very significant. And again, what has changed? What has changed is that aviation from the backside has now come to become the fastest growing sector in the country today. And this is MBS figure. This is the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, and this is Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning.
Honorable Minister, restate that aspect again relating to the numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. Civil aviation in Q4 2018 become the second fastest growing sector after water and sanitation, due to the fact that we're implementing our roadmap correctly. And in 2019, Q4, aviation overtook water and sanitation to become the fastest growing sector in Nigerian economy today. And this is Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, and this is Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning figures. So these things, because they are not there, you don't see what we're doing in civil aviation, except terminal building, national carrier. These are things that you would say. But many of the things that we're doing to get the sector correct, to improve on our safety, to make people to fly, there are hidden things that you don't see. Example, if I tell you that we installed a Category 3 instrument landing system somewhere, you don't know what it is. You never will see it as passenger. But we know what it is, and we know that people will be happier to come to fly into where we are. It makes it more efficient, very easy to do. People will remember things like the Abuja closure, because the runway literally packed up. It just got dilapidated right from the bottom up. So it was complete reconstruction and rehabilitation of the runway. I remember that we spent month and month trying to convince the Nigerian populace, the Nigerian legislature, the Nigerian engineers, the Nigerian entrepreneurs, everybody that has anything to do with government, to convince them that we should close this runway. But you know what? It took me a month to convince the nation, but it took me only 2 minutes to convince the president that we should do it. When I got on the idea, I said, look, I cannot allow this thing to continue. If something happens here, 500 lives will be lost. I'll be dead. I'll be so ashamed of myself, I won't have a face to carry around. So I went to Mr. President. I said, Mr. President, this is the situation with the pictures. This is the situation in Abuja. What is the solution? I said, sir, I will close down this runway and repair it. He thought for a second. 5 seconds, he didn't say anything. He said, Adi, go and plan very well. I said, yes, sir, thank you very much. And I left. And then the whole thing began. And once I announced it's going to be done, the whole thing began, the whole kicking against and all of that. But gladly today, we're all happy. We've done it. We gave them time when to do it. We said how many weeks it will take us, and we delivered it short of 2 days. So I'm very proud of that project because a lot has gone into it in planning, in logistics, and so on and so forth. You know, we did everything that we could to move people to Abuja and so on. So this is the kind of president that we have. And when he saw the vision, he didn't waste time to say approved. And that, for me, is my strength.
Okay.
And we did that. There are quite a number of things that we achieved. But I like to talk on those things that I consider very close to my heart and very dear, not necessarily the ones that the passenger will see. I remember they used to talk about Ghana. Oh, look at Ghana, look at the airport. People will be tweeting, people will be showing on the pictures and so on and so forth. But by the time we delivered Abuja and Port Harcourt, it was quiet. But thanks to one comedian who came and said, Nigeria don't vex. He was showing his on his TV. You know?
That's the social media.
Yeah, he was saying, oh, Nigeria don't vex. See, this is Nigeria. Now, we made that project, maybe what, 10% or thereabout, and with so many problems of planning and so on. But I said to Mr. President, sir, I want to stop this project. It doesn't make sense to me. $600 million does not make sense to me for 4 airports. Allow me to concession this airport. Save your money. He said, no, that we must complete every infrastructure that is started by previous governments. That is my style. I said, thank you, sir. Your wish is my command. And I left. Okay. And I went and cracked my brain to ensure that we finish those airports. Okay. And it's a huge, huge challenge also to bring it to where it is now. And we'll be delivering Lagos and Kano, for example, in next 1 or 2 months. But the ones that are close to my heart is where we met the training school in Zaria and where it is today. Where it is today, it's become the center of excellence for Africa. International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, conducted audit around the world of all the schools. From what we've been doing, it now becomes the center of excellence for Africa, offering one of the best trainings. In fact, it has the highest number of ICAO training courses in the entire world today. Today, another style of Mr. President, I went to him. I found myself approving on a quarterly basis $400,000 to go and train our firefighters in Cameroon, next door. And I said, but this doesn't mean well for us. It doesn't make sense. So how much is a firefighting simulator? They told me the prices. And the highest, the biggest automated one that you can put. And fire, by the way, fire is a fundamental requirement for every airport. Once there is no fire cover, the airport is closed. Yes. You won't operate. So, and this training is a must. And these are things a passenger will not see. So I went to Mr. President, sir, I need money to put a firefighting simulator because I'm paying $500,000 quarterly to go to Cameroon, for example, to do training. And he said, you have it. And I went today. That firefighting simulator, 5.2 billion, is sitting in Zaria, finished, completed, and training will begin in Zaria. How about that? I felt very delighted. And I'm Oliver Twist. I went to him again and said, Mr. President, these airplanes in Zaria, they are using aviation gasoline, avgas. And it's so expensive to train pilots in Nigeria. I want to bring in these diamonds that are using Jet A1, the normal jet fuel that we're using. That will bring down by 50% the cost of training. And he said, go ahead. Today we procured 8 of them. 6 are delivered and 2 are on their way. I again went to Mr. President. Mr. President, there is a Boeing 737 simulator to train our pilots. Our pilots go abroad to have their mandatory recurrency training that comes every 6 months. And the previous government started the project. They are less than 20%. Mr. President, if you allow me, can I convert this and do something else? He said, no, you must finish all of the projects that are started. at 10%, 15%. Now that simulator is sitting in Lagos at the port. We are clearing it, and it will be installed. The simulator building for about $1.6 billion or thereabout has been built. The simulator has been purchased at $21 million. It's on its way to Zaria from Lagos. It will be installed, and training will commence very soon in Zaria. So,
Honorable Minister, you're going to have enough time. I mean, it looks like you have an encyclopedia to reel out to us. But I want us to just take a slight break from what you were talking about, because when we commenced our discussion on the 5th anniversary of President Buhari's administration, one of the things we touched on had to do with the president's style. And in reeling out the achievements in the aviation sector, you've also somehow touched on the president's style. I mean, it took quite a while to convince other Nigerians, for instance, to reconstruct the Abuja airport runway. It took a short while to convince the president. And you appear to get the president's ears, and the president appears also to approve what you submit to him. But let's give us the benefit of your interaction with the president in this very critical sector. What kind of a leader is President Buhari?
President Muhammad Buhari, in my opinion, and I'm sure that is the opinion of everybody who interacts with him in whatever capacity, is that he's the best boss that you can have. First and foremost, he'll give you the assignment. He'll be very clear in his mandate. He'll be very clear in his focus. He will discuss it with you, and he will tell you, go ahead and do it. And once he says go ahead, you become responsible wholly for achieving that target. Well, I don't need to tell you that if you mess up, what will happen. but he's some gentleman that also will give you the credit and be very proud of you and support you all through the way. Whatever you bring makes sense to him,
if
he approves.
It makes sense.
Yeah. If it does, he approves it. If it doesn't, he's not shy of telling you, no, I don't agree. And he'll tell you the reasons often than not. And then you go back to drawing boards and come back again. I've been to him on one matter like 4 or 5 times. You send me away. He said, no, I will go. I come back. Eventually, it gets approved. And if he says no with a reason, and I reason with him, I now think of him that this is a man who today, as I speak, there is nobody dead or alive that has the experiences of leadership that President Muhammadu Buhari has. Nobody. Right from secondary school, when he was a prefect to head boy, he was actually a head boy and a house captain at the same time, the same year. And then through to to cadet sergeant, then into military. Right from platoon commander all the way to general officer commanding. And he commanded 3 out of the 4 that we had, division that we have in the country that time. 2, 3, 4 divs. And he was living in Kaduna, which is 1 div. So he was in all the 4 divisions of the Nigerian Army. Rose to become, he was a governor. He was a minister for petroleum, then commissioner for petroleum, federal commissioner. And he was head of state.
PTF too.
PTF. He was in the PTF. He was this. So, from head of state, he turned to become civilian, because somebody was from head of state to civilian. Okay, he is also from head of state to civilian, and 2 terms. So if you go through his experiences and what he has been given assignments and he achieved them, President Muhammadu Buhari, I find him to be the richest person in terms of experience in leadership. So I trust him, and he trusts us back. And he tells me that loyalty and trust is two-way traffic. Okay. It's both ways. So he is that kind of leader that will support you through thick and thin. He's not a fair weather friend at all. He jokes, he laughs, he guides us, he tells us stories of how it used to be. He tells us the future that he's looking at. And his concern is the critical downtrodden people, not forgetting the elites, because they kickstart and run the economy for the benefit of the downtrodden people. It's a mix of the two. In his brain, he is a person, and for me, the most is his integrity, his fairness, his love for this country, and his full dedication to duty.
Exactly. Nobody can dispute the fact that the president loves this country very much.
So his style is in his swagger. The way he carries himself, it tells you that this is a serious-minded person. This is somebody who believes in what he's doing. This is somebody who is aware of the weight of leadership on his head. Just one thing. Build up to our election in 2011. We saw it every time that he came to contest. he sees himself winning. You know, in 2011, he told me we were driving around this Abuja city, and we were certain that we were winning the election. And he said, the whole thing is not about winning the election. It's about this huge confidence that people have on us. So we must be able to deliver to satisfy this. And unfortunately, he got elected, for me, at a very wrong time, when there's crisis all over the place. There's no money to spend. There's recession. There's Boko Haram. There's this, that. Things are happening, including the latest one of them, now the coronavirus. Every single turn in the corner, he faces one huge challenge that no leader had faced in the past. When he came, 17 local governments were having another flag, not Nigerian flag. They are hoisting another flag. You know, so the challenge are enormous. The resources are so small. The future is looking bleak. The population is increasing. 200 million souls to cater for.
Okay, talking about resources now, when you came on board, you sort of, brought in stakeholders to show them the roadmap for the aviation industry. And about the concession now, I want to talk about the concession. You sought for a proper restructuring of an agency like the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, describing, I'm quoting you, the repositioning as most critical to industrial growth and than concession of the airport, as experts say it will bring more revenue to government and development of the industry. How far has it been on that?
Thank you very much indeed. I mean, when we came in, like you rightly said, the roadmap, when it occurred to me in my head, I penciled it down, I called the bureaucrats in the ministry, they agreed with me, that's the way to go forward, tweak it a bit, and then we put it to the stakeholders here in Abuja and in Lagos. About 1,000 people attended, and we discussed the roadmap and got it approved by Mr. President. And the structure of agencies, example, when we came in, we had Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria that has 45 general managers. 45. And you have 22 airports. The meaning is that every single airport has 2 general managers, including Azare, Akure, and Katsina. A general manager is a level 17 with the vehicles, with the PA, with SA, with all of that retinue of staff and parliamentary office. And so we thought that, no, this is wrong. It's top heavy, is bogus, is unattractive, and it's just an expenditure. So we sought to restructure them, to reduce them from 45 to 15, and then further maybe perhaps to 10. And then that is a manageable size, the size that we can manage. And the way that the business is being done in FAN, we thought that it's not the way it should be. It ought to be a business. That way we go. So then come to the concession of the airports. We believe that, I say it, and I'm afraid that people will get tired of hearing me. I liken it to you having, like my flat in Ikoyi. When I was living in Ikoyi, I had 2 rooms, to myself and my wife. And we're using 1 kitchen, 1 toilet, and 2 of us. Then imagine now I marry 4 wives and produce 30 children and bring my aunts and aunties, and suddenly we become 100 people in the same house of 1 toilet, 1 kitchen, and 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. Definitely we'll need a plumber permanently on standby to be fixing the toilet that will be flushing. So that's the story of our airports. Lagos Airport that you see now in 79, the whole vision at its capacity, highest capacity, was meant to be for 2 million people at its highest. But it was built for only 200,000 people. Only 200,000 people per annum. Today, Lagos alone is doing 8 million passengers. 8 million. Per annum. And I can guarantee you it's going to go to about 10 million now. And in the same Lagos airport, wing E and D. Same airport. And so that means that 200,000 people were using the airport. Now 10 million people are using the airport. So we thought that we should give it to private hands, not to sell, but to concession. So they bring it back to me. Now that my house in Ikoyi that I described was sitting on 7,000 square meters of land. If somebody said, okay, Heidi, wait, I take this your house, I build 10 stories of 3-bedroom flats, and so that gives you about 20 houses, or even 30, depends on how you do it, and then we pay you rent back. And if I am paying in Ikoyi 10 million per annum in my 2-bedroom flat, and now I have 30 in the same location, even at 10 million, that is 300 million. So if the guy takes it and he's taking 200 million for himself and giving me 100 million, so I'm making 90 million more than what I was making. And my property is now better, much better. And after 20 years, 25 years, he gives it back to me. So where are we? We are now at the tail end of it. We've appointed transaction advisors. They have finished the transaction advisory services. They come back to us. We went to ICRC, which is the regulator of this concession, and we've done the business case and approved, and now we are going to go to market. And once we go to market, we find somebody and say, we give him Lagos, we give him Port Harcourt, we give him Kano, we give him Abuja, to start with. And then later Enugu and the rest will follow. We will concession all these airports. So you'll begin to see more investment in the airports. Of course, now we have added value to the airports because now we're finishing Lagos in a few months from today. And then we're finishing Kano also in a few months from today. We'll finish Port Harcourt and Abuja. So their prices will go high. So we'll get better value and more money. And so that concession is on course.
Okay. All right. Honorable Minister of Aviation, thank you very much. I mean, we just allowed you to roll. We'll still come back to you in the course of the conversation. The other guests who are also experts in aviation, practitioners too, are here with us in the studios, as well as our Kaduna Network Center and via Skype, Captain Roland Iyaye. Let's bring in first Godike. Godike, I mean, you've listened to the aviation minister. The numbers are heartwarming. I mean, if you've increased passenger traffic or passenger volume from 8 to 18 million in 5 years, that's a huge story. Plus other things he has said. But as a monitor and observer of the sector, what is your reading?
All right. Honorable Minister actually told us this way back in 2018, and I have graphic information of everything he's. And I am shocked and surprised that he read them out, off his head without taking a look at any paper or his system. So what he just told us is something that he did in almost 60 clips. That was precisely on the 8th of November 2018 at NAF Center.
That's correct.
Very correct, isn't it? I was there, and I listened to you. It's quite impressive, I must tell you. The only aspect of it that I keep wondering how we're going to deal with, that's boxed my mind, is the fact that we have all these developments and all these increase, going on. It should be what they call directly proportional. That when this increase goes on, airlines should be doing better, making more money and acquiring more airplanes. Unfortunately, what we see at the moment is that it is inversely proportional. I mean, he and his colleagues have done so much, increased, passenger numbers, and then airlines that are supposed to be benefiting from these increases and who should be making more money and expanding and bringing in, modern airplanes and getting better and better, are rather dying. So, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. The whole thing should be directly proportional. As what the Honorable Minister has read out is increasing, airlines should be, increasing in their activities. So, what is responsible for this, inverse, that's right. And so I've thought through it, and I got to find out that we have financial indiscipline in the operations of airlines, and we haven't, as a government, taken charge of the sector, be it private or national, to say, listen, we need to guide you. We need to develop your account system, and we need to tell you how to operate, responsibly. Because looking at everything that's been done and put in place, there's absolutely no reason for any airline to go down. But we found them going down anyway. And so that's an issue that we need to look into, even on this program, and try to analyze why this is happening and then prefer suggestions how we can take charge. Like when I say we, I'm talking about government, taking charge without necessarily being in the business of running airlines. You can, because aviation is a highly regulated sector, and therefore nobody should be afraid of being regulated. So if you say this is where your finance must go, this is where your investment must go, this is what you must not do, then whether privately owned or government owned, they must abide by those rules if you want to operate in Nigeria. And I think if we do that, we will now see a situation where all the developments have been laid out will be directly proportional to better airlines and more prosperous airlines in the system. That is the point I want to drop for further discussions when we come another round.
Okay, thank you so much. We would now like to join our guest in our Kaduna Network Center, Captain Muhammad Joji. They say there's no way we can have this discussion without, looking at the present situation in Nigeria. The world itself will never be the same again. And I believe the aviation center will be most affected because of the travels and the people that are packed into the plane. So can you tell us, post-COVID-19, when the airports, which is gearing up to open now, what kind of safety measures will be put in place to ensure compliance by passengers?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, especially Honorable Minister who like an oil sheikh. But however, you see, first of all, I must look at the testimony of aircraft accident statistics in Nigeria. In the past, we had a hell of a lot of accidents, especially 2005, 2006, which claimed the life of about 321 people. Seeing the assumption of this administration, luckily we have zero accidents, and we hope to continue along that line. There are certain issues also which we would like to discuss in policy with the Honorable Minister himself. This is not a question of public consumption for now, because they are going to produce a new Civil Aviation Act without going through the policy. And it's wrong. We have to go to the policy first before we go to the act. So as far as I'm concerned, as I said, here with me is the entire aviation accident history here, the whole lot of it here. Luckily, for the past 40, 50 years, but I'm glad for the past 5 years administration, zero, and we hope to maintain it along that line. And also, airport development. Here again, I have what you call airport airstrips. We have about 71 of them. Here, did the book about 71 of them by air ride. So that was, at those times, we have encouraged what you call general aviation. General aviation is the key to development. So I hope the minister also should try and establish a new general aviation policy. Without general aviation, you can never develop an aviation in any country at all. So we are hoping the minister, during whatever stakeholders, we look at general aviation, very, very important, because, for example, now, I'm flying for remote airport, cutting passengers from Gusau, etc. People, they want to fly and join a mega airport flight, say to Lagos, to Abuja, and so on and so forth. So general aviation is the key for those what you call hub and spoke. So I hope the Honourable Minister also will look at the development of those hub and spoke, so we can look at the general aviation, the key to it as well. And I believe, I'm sorry to say that, without any apology, the Honourable Minister has been an engineer and also a pilot. So if there's any failure, I will blame him, because he knows the rules of the game. So that's where, for now, I will stop before I continue. Thank you very much.
You have not really answered my question. I was asking if, as the airports are gearing up to open now, what will be done in the, to ensure safety and compliance. Okay, I think Kaduna is off for now. Okay, let's now join our Skype.
That will be,
yes.
That's Captain Roland Iyaye.
Captain Roland, yes. Yeah.
He was on the screen a while ago. Captain Roland Iyaye, right there, that's him on the screen. It's one of our regular guests on Good Morning Nigeria. Captain Roland Ayayi, of course, you've listened to the aviation minister and indeed the other guests who have responded to some of the issues that he has raised. From your opinion, have we gained altitude sufficiently with the aviation sector? And if so, what are the critical success factors, and do you foresee any turbulence ahead?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Good morning, Honorable Minister. It's nice to see you after several years. Indeed, I think we have done quite a bit. We've done well. But again, I mean, like everything else, there's quite a lot of areas that need to be addressed. I've listened very carefully to what the Honorable Minister said. All the various projects is reeled out as, things have been achieved. Indeed, most of all these projects have been achieved. I agree with him. But I believe that one of the things we should have done, which fortunately I had spoken to him about in 2015, pretty much looking at the fact that we had paucity of funds, was a matter of prioritizing areas. There are quite a lot of low-hanging fruit areas, which ordinarily I think if the industry had taken cognizance of early enough, would have helped. I've listened to Godi Ike when he talked about the fact that with everything the minister said, the industry is somewhat improving, but unfortunately the airlines are dying. I'll give you a very quick answer to that. The Honorable Minister is aware that all the agencies in aviation, the 6 of them, rely 100% on the airlines. And I say this because, as we see today, as soon as COVID-19 came in, 17 airports were declared unviable. I disagree with that position, but that's where we are today. Now, and that's simply because all the airlines, by one way or the other, are taxed. The taxes, the fees, and the charges imposed on the airlines are, essentially what funds aviation. Now the airlines are not flying, you do not have any income. So all the agencies are near comatose. The government has to come up with funds by which way they will need to sort of invest in the agencies to keep them afloat. The thing is, if, for instance, the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria would reappraise its priorities and look at how it will focus on non-aeronautical revenues around the airports. Currently, I think the non-aeronautical revenue is about 80% of their income. If they would do that to be 20% and 80% non-aeronautical revenues, the airports will remain viable even when airlines are not flying. That's the argument there. Now, the thing is, I believe for us to be able to make appreciable progress, in addition to what the ministers reeled out, we need to have regulatory reform. I am very happy he mentioned the fact that we have a civil aviation bill and indeed all the other bills before the National Assembly awaiting the final reading and assent into law and all the rest of it. I disagree with portions of the bills that have been sent because those are not bills that were discussed with the airlines. The current bill, for instance, the Civil Aviation Bill 2019, seeks to criminalize airlines for certain reasons, which I think would be at variance with the context of what the industry is all about. Airlines are already regulated. Airlines are already overtaxed. If you continue to burden airlines with taxes, airlines will not be viable, irrespective of what infrastructure you have on ground. So I think there is a need to review substantially some of the regulatory issues, policy issues. I'll give an example, and I'll give the minister a cue as to how we can solve a problem, rather than just say there's a problem. The issue, for instance, of saying airports are unviable. When we deregulated in 1985, we had several airlines come in operating the same type of aircraft Nigeria Airways had. Now, if you deregulate a market, you already fragmentize that market. With a fragmented market, the capacity for airlines cannot be the same. Now, all we have in Nigeria are airlines competing on capacity rather than fares. So you don't have a situation where somebody says, I want to go to Abuja and I'm ready to pay 10,000 naira, and you'll find a flight. No, you can't. Airlines are charging about the same between 30 and 35,000 naira per seat. So what airlines are competing on, are not fares, but capacity. Deregulation actually means that you'll be able to compete on fares. So there's a distortion there. Now, where does that distortion come from? Again, if we go back to the numbers in the agencies, the over-bloated numbers in agencies, there's a tendency to say that, look, we need to charge more fares, more tax.
Oh, we seem to have lost the Skype there. Yes, I would now come back to the Minister of Aviation. You know, the sector has suffered quite a huge loss. And around the world, experts are calling for a bailout. Is this foreseeable in Nigeria?
Well, I would have loved that you allow me respond to a few issues being then I can answer that one. Well, I must say that I agree with the two speakers in part, or in most part, but just to allay their fear that Roland has just raised now, the bill is still a bill. It's covenant between me and them. I said to them that we cannot pass this bill except we put it to public hearing, and that public hearing and stakeholder conferences. So I have spoken more than 20 times, and I pleaded with them that we're going to send them ahead of time. And this is the first time any minister is doing that. We sent it now ahead of time for them to study it. We'll give them the number of weeks that they want to take, make a critique, and bring it back to us, and we sit with them, agree how the industry is, because the industry is for them. Yes. It's not for government. And then we take it back to National Assembly, and National Assembly will pass it. So you should be calm. That's why we give him ahead of time. So he should continue to critique and bring it back to us, and we take it to government. Simpliciter. So that one is not an issue anymore. And I think what he's talking about, that when we deregulate the industry, everybody bought aircraft that is like Nigeria Airways, and therefore we cannot find, if I say 30,000 naira to Lagos from Abuja, I can't find the one that goes for 10,000. That is entirely dependent on the entities that are doing the business. It's their business model and choice. Okay. They chose the kind of airplane that they want to use, and that is not in our hands. However, I agree 100% with what Godi has said, that we have responsibility for economic regulation, to be able to get into those airlines and say whether they are healthy in the first place, financially healthy, which speaks to volumes on safety, because then you cut corners if you're not healthy. So that we are going to strengthen, the new thing you are going to see, strengthen that economic regulation within the context of civil aviation regulation in the country, Nigeria. And it's going to be at par with international standards, because we are regulated, like he said, from the ICAO SAPs, the standard recommended practices of ICAO, and any other entity out there like IATA and the rest of it. We will all partner and ensure that this industry is getting value for its money. I also I've listened also to my older brother and thank him for calling me Sheikh, because now I have the new COVID look.
Yes, you do.
Yes, but just to say that our focus really is on this safety and doing things right. I give you an example. From the beginning of time, there is no government that made the efforts to certify our airports according to international standards, except this government. And we're able to certify 2 airports, Lagos and Abuja. We've been clamoring for it, government in, government out, we in the industry. Nobody did it, but we did it. And then we're on our way to certifying Kano and Port Harcourt, and then all of the airports. So this airport certification, for the first time in Nigeria, it is done under this government. And that speaks volumes of our concern for safety and doing things right. And when you say airlines are not doing well and all of that, you see, that's our own thinking. That's why we have changed the roadmap and tweaked it to ensure that whatever we are doing is translated into what the airline would do. However, the airlines are facing several challenges. 1, governance. 2, lack of capacity and depth. The Nigerian airlines are backed by money bags who thinks that 90 passengers times 25,000 equals to this, and it's huge money, and they get into aviation business. And bingo, they find it, they get in there, and they found that no, this is not the way I think about it, because maybe one single engine change can take away all the profit they made in the last 5 years. So it's an industry that has very narrow margins. Roland also spoke about viability of airports. I strongly don't believe that there's any airport that is not viable. It depends on the activity you are able to create around that airport. I'll give you an example. When I was in the opposition in 2006, late Eradua was governor in Katsina. He called me to come and deliver a lecture suddenly and said about something, the economy of Katsina, Katsina Economic Summit, something like that. And he gave me tourism, agriculture, and transportation to speak about. I went with only 3 slides. And I said to him that you have 37 dams in Katsina. One of the biggest is in Katsina, in the country. Why don't you produce chili, tomatoes, and onions and use your airport to export them? In 5 hours, they'll be in London. In London, in Paris, in Jeddah, in 5 hours. A handful of tomatoes is £10 in England. A whole basket is 200 naira at the time. You make foreign exchange, and because airplanes are going and coming and going and coming, you start doing wheels and brakes in Katsina and servicing the planes, and you begin to put up some service center, then becomes an MRO, then etc. So you can use that airport. You can use an activity around airport. Create it. Today, we are having Akure. Akure was dead. Today, we are doing 2 flights a day. So it depends on the activity that you create around the airport and the business. There are no longer points where we land and take off with airplanes. No, we should not be living in the past. So that's what I want to say about that. So we should deliberately, on purpose, create activity around our airports. And that's what we're doing with the concession. We're not going to just hand over airport to you. We have to create, we have to analyze and take account the viability and the possibilities around those airports. And you also, as entrepreneur, come and take our airports. You will also think about that. And then we partner and create activity, and then that airport becomes viable. And I think, lastly, I just want to say that non-aeronautical charges that he talked about. Well, is the chicken or the egg, you know. Non-aeronautical services are all products of the activity of airlines around the airport. It is when you have people going in there and coming out that you can create non-aeronautical example, if I just want to put, say, a shopping mall or a movie or a spa in an airport to make money, it's non-aeronautical charges. But then there has to be the passenger that will get in that flight to use it. Okay? So therefore, I agree totally or in part with Roland, but you do need the activity of those airlines. And those airlines, they suffer from, 1, lack of access to equipment at a very good price. And it's challenging, we found out, and it's part of our roadmap. 2, lack of finance, funding. The way, insurance is so high in Nigeria for many reasons, and we're trying to tender with that, to deal with that, because that's also part of our problems in Nigeria. Then, of course, governance. Because you have money, it does not mean that you are the alter ego of the airline and you decide what happens. I know, maybe it's not for the price, but I know in some of these airlines, and they are not, well, some of the former airlines, I know of a guy whom I went to, a gentleman who was an airline. I applied to get a job there. I went to him. And once he arrived at the office, he asked everybody to move to a certain location. We all went there, and we found musicians, press singers, and everybody. And he asked for the Lego sales for the day. And it came in sacks. And he was just doling out the Lego sales right there. I said, there goes my salary. And I left. And I left. And this has not changed. It must. Even the choice of the kind of aircraft that you operate to make money, like Roland says. Without calling names, I've seen somebody today who had brought an airplane that nobody wants to fly in the world because it guzzles fuel. It's a 4-engined airplane as against a 2-engined airplane. Okay, now, because you don't have access to finance, because there's lack of capacity, because there's governance issues. Today, you go to apply to bring in an airplane. There's an 18-year-old airplane. That 18-year-old airplane, and you want to compete with an Ethiopian airline that has taken a delivery of brand new airplane. He's burning 30% less fuel than you're burning on the same route. How are you going to compete? How? Tell me. There's no magic. You buy an 18-year-old airplane that has 4 engines, that is guzzling fuel all over the place, and then you want to compete with a sleek 2-engined airplane that burns 30% less your own fuel. And fuel is 40% of your operational costs. If you look at the direct operating costs of airlines, you see what is happening with the fuel. And so you are guzzling fuel. And then, of course, maintenance will go high because the airplane is older.
I was just wondering, Honorable Minister, and this is all tied up to the point Gordy raised in terms of seeing a rise in infrastructure and ancillary developments around our aviation sector, and then a dip, for instance, in the fortunes of of airlines. And you have touched on a number of points, governance issues and the need to regulate them. Let's talk about the economics of airlines, probably something similar to what the central bank does with banks to ensure that they are healthy. But are you likely, as a government, to succeed in this regard, knowing the orientation of our business people? I mean, what you just described now is not strange. You go to the media industry, it's basically the same thing in the private sector. Some persons, just believe that, look, at the end of the day, I want to know how much came in terms of advert revenue or circulation revenue, and then off the individual goes with the money. So is this an area we are likely to succeed in? Because if we don't get the governance right, then management of finances and even the health of the airlines just might still be in question.
Exactly, and that's the whole point. Yes, we will get there. It's part of the focus of government and part of the policy of government. Second is that the whole idea of bringing this national carrier thing is because year in, year out, from the times of Cabo, Okada, Haraka, Hako, Whole Trade, Chenchengi, all of them, ADC, Bellevue, name it. From those days, we see the same thing. They will get in there and get out, get in there and get out. And we do know that the market in Nigeria, 200 million people, sitting on 23,766 square kilometers of land, with no infrastructure like rail and roads. The aviation must tick. Aviation is a friend to high population. Nigerians are naturally mobile. They travel for nothing. So we think that we are a good candidate for a very robust carrier. And that is why we chose the option to have a private sector-led and driven airline. And it means that all of these, our Georges of this world who are the doyen of the industry, the Roland of this world who are investing, the AirPCs, the Maxis Air, and everybody can come and partner in this new venture to create a new national airline. That's number one. Number two, it doesn't also mean that their own airlines will die. No, but they should tweak their business model. They should get knowledgeable people to run their airlines, and they should give them a structure and a format where a very efficient, modest airline can begin to grow. And it's a question of time. When they get it right, they get the finance right, the governance right, the access to capital, access to equipment right, then they will be able to put a very nice, right airline. Overland today, responding to Roland again, Overland today is using turboprops all over the place. And I'm sure it's not the same price with the jets. So it depends on the business model. But certainly economic regulation is one issue that we're focusing on. And certainly also we're telling the world and people that these issues must be tended to. And if we do, it will increase the fortunes of the airlines, if you like. To round you to say that we are jealous. The primary purpose of us being in government and me being a minister, the primary purpose is for me to help businesses to continue to grow so that they will employ our people and provide the needed service. We need the service, we need employment. So my function is to support the airlines and the entrepreneurs in the aviation business to be able to provide the service and employ people. That's my purpose of being a minister. And that is exactly what we think we've been doing. We've been engaging stakeholders all the time, and it's on record that I have held officially 6 stakeholder conferences to which Godi said that he attended one, or many, here in Abuja. Over 1,000 people were there. And unofficially, we've done like 20 stakeholder meetings. Most ministers, they will come and introduce themselves. My name is so-so-so, I'm the minister, and off they go. But I am always back to the stakeholder to criticize the policy, to talk about what to do next, and then we run together.
I remember I hit hard at NAF Center.
Yes,
remember that?
Yes, I do. I do. And thank you very much for that. And we are here to see, the thing about criticisms, I like them, even if they're not constructive, because they make my job easy. They make me shine. If I listen to you, you are correct, I change, I make amends, I shine. If you are wrong, I will still shine. So either way, I win. So for me, as a policy maker, I like you to criticize me, even if they're unconstructive or whatever they call them. I don't mind them at all. They make my job better, much better, because I'm not arrogant. I listen.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Minister. We'll come back to you in the course of the program as it progresses. But we'll take a break right now. When we return, the conversation and focus on the aviation sector will continue. Don't go away.
Nigerians. Coronavirus is dangerous. It can kill. When you see this sign, high fever, cough, shortness of breath, drowsiness, pneumonia, don't panic, don't hide, don't embark in self-medication. Promptly visit the nearest medical facility. Report all cases to the nearest hospital. Prevention is key. Avoid contact with infected persons. Avoid crowded areas as much as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Your life is precious. Stay alive. Live long, live right. This message is sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Nigerian Film Corporation. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibility.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 2255 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
Nigerians, let us take responsibility. Stay healthy, stay safe, and curb the spread of the virus. Take responsibility. The coronavirus spreads from one person to another. Let us avoid crowd gathering of any kind for any reason. Take responsibility. Avoid traveling from one state to another during these lockdown restrictions. Obey all the rules that are put in place. Take responsibility. Stop spreading fake news and unverified reports about the coronavirus. There is no known cure for COVID-19. Take responsibility. Observe all the measures that can help stop the spread of the virus. Together, we can do this, but only if we take responsibility. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
All right, welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Captain Roland Iyaye was speaking to us when we lost him via Skype. Now we understand that he's back. Captain Roland Iyaye, of course, while we lost you, the minister had the opportunity of responding to the slew of issues that had been raised. You may wish to complete whatever point you were making at that time, but take along with it the whole idea of what has also been on the cards, what people can see visibly, namely the proposal for a national carrier. That's one. Second point is the so-called MRO. Now, I don't know what's going on with that. Each time we have a conversation and MRO comes up, I find that there is usually not a mention of a facility at Uyo. I had the benefit of visiting the facility some years ago. The then governor of the state, who is now also a minister in charge of the Niger Delta, that's Akpabio, indicated, that the MRO facility there was meant, to service the aviation industry as well in Nigeria, as well as in the sub-region. Is that a way to go, or it seems tangential to the whole idea of getting an MRO along, of course, with a national carrier, just as the Honourable Minister has indicated? Captain Roland Iyaye.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. On the MRO issue, I tend to want to agree with the Honourable Minister because I think there is a need to stem capital flight. However, if you're going to be talking about setting up an MRO is not like a car garage that you just set up and then any type of car will come in there. No. There is a need to specialize on a particular type of aircraft. So before you would set up an MRO, you need to do your market analysis to say, well, what type of aircraft do we have in this market? Like the Honourable Minister said, if you're looking at the African market, what is the type of aircraft type that you have that is popular in this sort of in this climes that ordinarily if you set up, you would have good patronage. That would be the first thing. And then of course you need to sort of structure that to work with your local market so that the primary objective of making sure your STEM capital flight can be addressed. Indeed, Uyo is a very good facility. But what I know about UYO is that it does not have the equipment and the necessary tools to service any particular type of aircraft as we speak. So for you to make UYO a useful facility, you need to equip it to service a particular or particular types of aircraft. So I think that's the first step in terms of addressing the MRO issue. Now, in terms of a national carrier, I disagree with the minister, because if you have a national carrier coming into the same market like the current domestic operators, the national carrier is going to be given special privileges. I don't see them coming into the same environment, competing on the same basis, on a level playing field, and succeeding. I mean, the point here is airlines in Nigeria are burdened by several issues that ordinarily it shouldn't be. And I think there's a need to reform that as a first step before talking about a national carrier. And in any case, if you bring in a national carrier today, which to a lot of Nigerians might seem to make sense, I'll remind us very quickly that South African Airways is currently struggling to be out of bankruptcy. A lot of major carriers in the world are currently struggling for national aid. Now, the point is, if you have a national carrier, even with the concept of saying you want to have private partnership and all the rest of it, if the issues affecting the current domestic carriers are not addressed, invariably you're going to have the same problem with the national carrier. Virgin Nigeria came in, or Virgin Atlantic it was, Virgin Nigeria, right. And at the end of the day, we ended up having an issue with the structure it came with. Eventually, we found that it was more like people bringing in money to say we'll invest and never invested. Now, the Nigerian carrier that you want to set up, if it's going to be a flag carrier, will be a good thing. A national carrier with taxpayers' money at this point in time might not seem like a wise idea, because I don't think the country even can afford the cost of setting up something at this point in time. I think the government should immediately look at how it is they can help the domestic airlines stay viable. In terms of international reach that a lot of people have complained about, if the government so feels, they should designate capable Nigerian airlines to fly the flag. I think that would be a better way to go, rather than put resources in a new national carrier that at the end of the day might be money down the drain. So for me, the MRO project is a very, very good step, and it's a must. We have the infrastructure. All that needs is just a matter of tooling up. But the issue of a national carrier, particularly when we're talking about coming out of COVID, well, the benefit of it, again, if you look at it, is that if you're saying you want to go and take advantage of this situation, yes, you probably will be able to get a lot of aircraft available because there's so much capacity in the market today. However, in the longer term, how do you structure to operate in the same environment like the domestic carriers and expect to be viable even when they are not viable? The issue of corporate governance that has been talked about is very, very minuscule when it comes to the issue of running an airline. Corporate governance, in the context in which the minister said it, that a local airline was doling out money of a particular sales and all that, that's not something that happens today. No airline, no reasonable or responsible airline owner would take money from its pot and share just because money came in on the day. The point is, airlines are burdened in Nigeria. And until that is addressed, it will be very difficult. The issue I was trying to raise before I went off air the last time, talking to the Honorable Minister about the issue of the so-called unviable airports. I heard what he said. No airport indeed should be unviable. However, to address that very quickly, the issue is a policy change. The airlines in Nigeria are all licensed based on the same sort of structure. That is wrong. In America, you have 3 different tiers. And the reason you have different tiers is that each tier operates based on a capacity size. If you have that capacity size tied to a market niche, then it means that a lot of small markets in this country will be operated into by smaller airlines licensed to operate the same, the sort of capacity we're talking about. In 2006, we had a proposal to have Nigerian airlines licensed at 3 different levels based on aircraft capacities. If we did that, we would have probably 3 or 4 major airlines today, And all the other airlines will be either air taxis or some of small regional airlines operating about 50-seat airplane. Nigerian domestic market cannot contain or cannot carry more than a 40, 50-seater airplane, on a daily basis. The 737s we're flying on domestic market is a huge waste in terms of resources. Early morning, they're full because of the peak period, but between 10 and 2 p.m. every day, they fly empty. And that is like whittling away whatever benefits they earned in the peak periods. So at the end of the day, it falls back to economic regulation.
Okay, thank you so much. Captain Roland, we'll return to you as the program progresses. Now back to Godi Ike. So much has been done in the past 5 years and a robust turnaround in terms of infrastructure provision in the airport. So what lies ahead as the federal government continues to develop the sector?
Right. Yes, a lot has been done. As a matter of fact, I often take out time on my own as finding myself as a stakeholder visiting, especially the Abuja airport to look around and see how things are going. And then I call up officials of FAN very often, sharing ideas and telling them what my observations. Now, the issue raised about airlines being overtaxed, appears to be ringing so much bell. I remember the chief executive of Air Peace, Chief Allen Onyema. He once was in the media and he said, of the 23,000 basic ticket fare that the airline received, that all that got home to his airline was 9,000 naira out of 23 tickets sold. The rest of them went to various taxis and various groups in the not necessarily. First of all, I mean the net taken by the airline from it, an average ticket of about 23,000 at the time. That was Chief Onyema speaking.
Is it possible? That's. I'm sorry, Godi. Yeah. So I take this along with it because you are still elaborating on what the problem is.
Yes.
In terms of the excess burden that airline operators have to carry. Yes. Might the Erythropolis concept help deal with this? Because FAN has been mentioned, for instance. FAN appears not to be taking advantage of even advertising opportunities in and around its. And then if an airport indeed is supposed to be like a city of its own, might this therefore then take off some of the burden from the airlines?
Or yes, as a matter of fact, airports, like the Honorable Minister rightly mentioned, airports are no more places you go to just land and walk in and take off. Airports are huge markets, huge. I mean, if you take a trip to the Dubai airport, today, as a matter of fact, if you visited, say, about 6-7 years ago, and you go back today, you get lost. You won't even know where you are anymore because expansion is massive and huge, and everything is happening there. And as a matter of fact, sometimes you think that a quarter of the population is milling around there round the clock. That's what you find. So that's exactly what the Honorable Minister is referring to. And if we're able to really develop one, it will help a lot. And of course, it will also ginger the airlines to look for other ways of making income apart from the air tickets, because there will be quite a lot for everybody to do around there. Yeah. But then this issue of because in my place, they say that when a child is crying and pointing a finger towards a particular direction, go to that direction, you would either see the father or the mother. That's another day, where I come from. That when a child is crying and pointing a finger, look out to that direction, you must see daddy or mommy, there. So
the person who caused the crying.
Maybe That's correct. Or maybe the person who caused the crying, yes. So the airlines are crying out. And I think it makes sense that the Honorable Minister organize a committee of a think tank group who can look through what the airlines are complaining about of being overtaxed and the rest of them, and then make come up with something that would be win-win for everybody. Because we need to have these airlines really healthy and alive, and we need to because that's directly proportional to safety. Because if they don't make money, they'll start cutting corners, and airplanes will begin to fall out of the skies.
And we don't want that. All right, thank you very much, Godi Ike. Let's return to Captain Mohammed Georgie in our Kaduna Network Center. Captain Georgie, 2 points very quickly, and we'd like your response also to be very brief. One, you were talking about the need to review the general aviation policy, and the minister himself spoke about the reform in terms of having a new law to replace the Civil Aviation Act, which is, according to him, outdated. He says this has been sent out to various stakeholders. Do you have a copy of that, of the bill, proposed bill? And if so, what more would you like to see, or what is your criticism? Plus, the national carrier, you've often been an enthusiast of the national carrier. I'm sure you listened to Captain Roland Eyaye and his objections to certain aspects of the proposed national carrier. What are your responses?
Thank you very much. At the moment, general aviation is the key. I am now involved in the operation of planting of rice in Rukubi, Doma local government of Nasarawa State. It is about 40,000 hectares of rice we produce per quarter. What do? We have an aeroplane called Air Tractor. It is simple general aviation aircraft. It flew low level, plant the rice, come back, plant fertilizer, come back, fly into siding. That's all it does. In one state, we are producing 40,000 tons of rice. Imagine you have 6 states. Believe me, Honorable Minister, you will feed the West Africa of that. It's very important when I look at that. So general aviation is the key to that aspect of it, Honorable Minister. I assembled the aeroplane in my hangar, I test flown it, and I'm operating it now. So it's very important, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, too, he knows how to fly all those aeroplanes anyway. Roland Yali knows how to fly all these aeroplanes anyway. So it is a key. Also, it can be like a training ground for our young new pilots, because it's a propeller aircraft. They finish from school, they quickly go and integrate themselves in that. So that expansion is very, very good indeed. That's number one. Number two, you look at the what you call the national carrier issue, isn't it? Now, I was involved in that. You see, why the Nigerian Airways failed? Because it was gross revenue was net profit. What you generate, you chop, somebody pay the bills. I can get back to you what you call 15th of May 1946, Resolution 682, Buckingham Palace. The President, father of Queen of England, King George, started what you call West African Air Transport in Council. Nigeria, Gold Coast, now Ghana, and Sierra Leone, and Gambia. The headquarters was number 68 Broad Street, Lagos. Now, all these documentation was there. I have about 107 files on that on the national carrier issue. So if we can say that, nothing wrong with the national carrier, but also they should be allowed concurrently to operate successfully with other with some airline. If you say you only establish national carrier, those private airlines for the past 14 years are supporting the country, so there must be also a concession to be given to them. As I said, I have 107 files on that issue. My doors are open. We can sit down and discuss the national carrier issue, because I've been involved in that for 4 years, from President tax force up to the MD of Nigerian Airways. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Captain Mohammed Georgie. Back now to the Aviation Minister. We're getting your closing thoughts. There are a number of issues on the table for you to respond to, so bulletize your responses, Honorable Minister. But along with your responses, there are 2 other issues we haven't touched on. When will the Enugu airport be ready? It was supposed to have been ready in April, but coronavirus, of course, has created its own havoc. Secondly, Abuja's second runway, mired in controversy in the past, now is being revived. The issue is being revived. When will the second runway for the Abuja airport, that's Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, be delivered?
Well, thank you very much. Real quickly, second runway Council last week approved the consultancy service to be given, and we hope to issue the contract before the end of the year. If the consultants come back with a design and we approve, we issue, and we have money luckily in the budget of 2020, so we would go ahead with that project, and I would assume that that runway can be delivered within between 24 and 32 months, so which is within the lifespan of this government. But sure, for sure, by the time President Muhammad Buhari will be leaving for Daura, he would fly out of the second runway, I hope. Then also real quickly about the Enugu runway, we were just about a few weeks, about 2 weeks or thereabout, to finishing Enugu when the coronavirus came and the workers just left. And we remobilized back to Enugu. We are now back in Enugu. I will be visiting Enugu, and then I will give a new date on once to finish, because the rents are here, but we've done a great number of jobs. I mean, work there, a great amount of work there, and we should be able to round up Enugu within a month. But I will give a definite date when I get there. Now, quickly to the response to Uyo MRO. Now, so we get it right. The roadmap, maybe Roland missed part of the my statement, and I'm sure he must have been around when I was talking about the roadmap. The roadmap is actually intertwined with each other. You need an airline to service the MRO, i.e. to give the MRO business, to give them the engines to deal with, or the airframe to deal with, you know. And also, the MRO needs the airline to survive. And you need also the airport for the airline. So every sector of our roadmap, including the cargo terminals that we're talking about, allied cargo that I didn't speak here, you know, also needs, and the roadmap is intertwined. So the Uyo MRO, like he said, they have the shed there, but there are no equipment. In fact, when I visited last year also, they don't even have floor. But that's not the point. The point is we will support Uyo to develop MRO. And so you get it right that the MRO should not be only one MRO in Nigeria. There are hundreds and hundreds of MROs in England, for example. There are hundreds and hundreds of MROs all over the place. And like he said, it should be speciality based. What is in the study we have, we know exactly the type of engines that are very popular within the subcontinent of Africa. And in Africa, there's only one in Ethiopia serving Ethiopian Airline, one in Egypt serving Egypt Airline, one in Morocco serving Royal Air Morocco and Air France, and the one in South Africa. That's all. So in this West and Central Africa, there's no MRO. So if we have in Nigeria 3, 4, 5, we'll still have market. So therefore, the one in Uyo will support, they continue, they can partner with anybody that wants to partner, but all these things are private sector. And we've gone advanced. We've selected candidates who applied, and then we will select the winner very soon, and then we'll have an MRO in Abuja quickly. Then about the airlines and what they take out of the ticket from 23,000 to 9,000, whatever it is. First and foremost, services must be given. Services. If I give you passenger service charge, for example, or ticket sales charge, a part of the money, I'm giving you marshal, I'm giving you fire cover, I'm giving you my runway, I'm giving you my taxiway, I'm giving you my electricity, I'm giving you my water, and all of this. So therefore, of course, tickets, everything that you sell in the world is a component of it that does not come to you. If I sell pizza, for example, somebody supplies the tomato. That's what it is. So whatever it is. But I agree that the charges can be made better, and all of the airlines will bear me witness that there's even a committee in place that the Vice President, His Excellency Vice President Professor Oshibanjo, set up to review these charges. And we sat down and did a diligent job in my office with all of the airlines involved. And we zeroed on the specific issues, and government is looking at that. You know, and that I chaired that committee when they were crying. But I can tell you that these charges are not peculiar to Nigeria. They're all over the world. Every single ticket you pick, you can dissect it, analyze how much money goes to the airline. So it's not new. It's not any news really for me. But it's that if they would be improved, we'll improve them because we want them to provide service. Then quickly to Georgie is speaking my mind. Georgie is speaking my mind that these airlines are not going to die. We will continue to promote them. The national carrier will come and be set up, private sector led and driven, with very minimal investment of government, with no control of the management of the airline. Private sector to showcase how we can take advantage of our population, our GDP, $450 billion GDP in Africa, the biggest market in Africa, the biggest population, at the center of Africa. We are a good candidate for a very robust, world-class, well-done airline. And I can also not keep quiet by saying that there are issues with our airlines. They can be made better. They shouldn't be seen as personal entities. I was speaking in the past when I said I went on an airline when I applied and I saw him donating money.
All right,
it doesn't happen.
all right.
But a lot still happen.
Honourable Minister,
and they are still deficient.
Honourable Minister,
our job is to make them better.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
We
you
said
so much.
bulletize the point. We said bulletize the point. Now you are speaking in essays. Okay.
Senator,
all right.
Senator Hadi Sirika,
We'll have the benefit of having a return on Good Morning Nigeria to talk about some other aspects. We really appreciate your being with us this morning, Senator Hadi Sirika, Honourable Minister of Aviation. As I said, you didn't correct me. Probably Nigeria's longest-serving Minister of Aviation
and the
so
first
far.
aviator to head the ministry.
All right. Thank God, Ike, aviation analyst. Thank you very much for being our guest this morning.
Thank you, my pleasure.
All right. From Lagos via Skype, we're joined by one of our regulars, Captain Roland Iyaye. Captain Iyaye, always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you. From our Kaduna Network Center, we had Captain Mohammed Georgie. Thanks a lot, always, for being our guest on Good Morning Nigeria. A number of tweets also came in. We appreciate you all for sending in your tweets. We, of course, applauding the minister and the president for the strides that we have seen in the aviation sector. Aviation sector, according to the NBS data now, is the fastest growing sector in Nigeria,
Yes.
from 8 million passengers to 18 million in 5 years. Once again, we thank you for tuning in. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, stay safe and be well. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Juma Yusuf. Do have a great day. And remember to observe the physical distancing and stay safe.